All right, World History, Chapter 3, Section 3, Powerful Empires in India. What ways did the Maurya and Gupta rulers achieve peace and order? So we'll look at the Maurya rulers, the kingdoms of the Deccan, the Gupta rule and why it was considered a golden age, and then how family and village life shaped Indian society. So when we look at Maurya Empire, Chandragupta is the one who forges this. And what he's going to do is he is going to conquer the green part on that map, and he's going to use a bureaucracy. He's going to use roads and harbors and taxes. The other thing is he's going to create industries that are owned and run by the state that are going to benefit all people. So economically, he's going to tie people together, but he's also going to use a secret police force so that he can kind of root out spies and root out any kind of troublemakers. And so he's going to use kind of a combination of some of those tactics that we've talked about in other places. So, for example, the bureaucracy, the roads, and the harbors was something that was used by the Persian Empire. And then, like, secret police would be kind of like the Babylonians, where they're kind of taking groups of people and spreading them all throughout the kingdom and the empire. He passes away. Eventually, his grandson is going to take over. His grandson is going to continue to grow the size of this empire. And in part of this, he goes to the Deccan and he takes over this part of the Deccan known as Kalinga. And he ends up slaughtering 100,000 people to do this. And at that moment, when he sees all the suffering and he sees all the death, he has this moment where he realizes this is not the life I want to lead. He converts to Buddhism and devotes himself to Buddhism. And he sends missionaries out throughout all of India into other places to spread it. He puts pillars all throughout India to remind people of Buddhist teachings and how we're supposed to live. He builds hospitals and shrines and takes care of the weak and the sick and the travelers. And so he really kind of reforms his life to be able to become a better person. When we look at the Deccan, again, that Deccan kind of separates north from south. What you're going to see is there's going to be some blending of traditions with the north because some of that stuff's going to come southward. But these Tamil kingdoms are going to form, and they're going to really get a name for being traders. They're going to trade all the way to Rome, and when Rome disappears, they're then going to trade with China. But they're going to kind of be this link between India and the rest of the world, and that's where a lot of these supplies and religious ideas from India are going to get to other places. The Guptas are eventually going to replace the Mauryan Empire, and this is going to be a period of peace and prosperity. And so because there's all of this time of peacefulness and economic prosperity, India is able to look at what do we want to invent, create, develop. And so there's going to be this time of cultural achievement, which is the Golden Age. When we look at some of the things they leave for other generations, math is probably the big thing. They developed this concept of zero, and zero is huge because it allows us to have the decimal system. This ability to have something that is and isn't is going to be able to create things like binary computer language. So it's really important that this gets developed and it eventually finds its way into Western Europe so that way we can have a number system based on tens. For medicine, they're going to do simple surgeries. They're going to set broken bones. They're going to do some other things. But they've also figured out vaccination against smallpox way thousands and thousands of years ahead of everything else. When we look at the family structure, they're going to have a joint family structure where you're going to have grandmas and grandpas and all those things kind of living together. The job of the family is to teach kids about castes. The other thing is to arrange marriages for their children. For their daughters, they need to save money for a dowry. That's the money that's going to go from the daughter's parents to the son's parents to pay for marriage. And this is going to have an impact on system and on the way things are done. And this dowry is going to have a big impact on the role of women because women are expected to stay at home. Eventually, this practice of covering women from head to foot is going to be developed, and that's going to get spread to other cultures later on. They have very few rights. Their duty is to be a good housewife, to be devoted to her husband, and to raise children. And you're going to see this idea that ancient Indian women are expected to join their husbands on the funeral pyre. In other words, commit suicide to show their devotion and their duty to their husband. Not all women are going to embrace that, and not all women are going to embrace this restriction. They're going to fight against it, and they're going to fight for more rights. But you can kind of see how this is going to impact things a little bit later on and down the road.